Today I am going to narrate my short story, The Bangles of Friendship. In the small village of Salpur, nestled amidst the lush greenery of Bengal, lived a little girl named Chumki. Her days were filled with laughter, running around the paddy fields and playing with her best friend Jui. Jui lived in the neighboring village of Devpur, just across a narrow stream that the girls would often wade through to meet each other. To these two 5-year-olds, Salpur and Devpur were inseparable, just as they were inseparable from each other. Chumki and Jui were the embodiment of childhood innocence. They didn't care about the political tension brewing around them. All that mattered was their little world of dolls, colorful bangles, and promises of eternal friendship. Chumki, with her bright eyes and infectious laughter, and Jui, with her quiet strength and unwavering loyalty, made a perfect pair. Under the shade of a grand banyan tree, they spent hours weaving stories around their dolls and decorating their wrists with the vibrant bangles that Jui's mother would give them. But as the whispers of partition grew louder, their little world began to tremble. The adults around them, once cheerful and carefree, were now consumed by fear and uncertainty. Chumki's father, a cautious man by nature, had always harbored reservations about Jui's family. Jui's father, a staunch supporter of India's independence, was known for his fiery speeches against the British Raj. He believed passionately in the cause of freedom, but this also made him a marked man in the eyes of many, including Chumki's father. Chumki, her father would say, his voice stern yet filled with concern. You must be careful. The world is changing. You can't be friends with Jui anymore. Her father is a troublemaker. It's not safe. How could Chumki understand? To her, Jui was not the daughter of a freedom fighter. She was best friend and her sister. The thought of being separated from Jui was unfathomable. Yet the fear of the adults soon seeped in their innocent world. One afternoon, as the sun sipped dough in the sky, casting long shadows over the village, Chumki and Jui sat under the banyan tree, their little hands busy packing their dolls into a small cloth bag. They had overheard their parents talking about the impending separation. The two villages, once part of United Bengal, were to be split between India and uniformed Pakistan. Salpur would remain in India while Devpur will fall under Pakistan's rule. We have to leave, Jui, Chumki whispered, her voice filling with the weight of a decision no child should have to make. We have to go somewhere where no one can separate us. Jui nodded, her dark eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. We will take our dolls, Chumki, we will take our bangles and go far, far away. The two girls, their hearts heavy but their spirits unbroken, began to make their plans. They would leave that very night under the cover of darkness and find a place they could stay forever. As they prepared to leave, carefully packing their precious dolls and colorful bangles into a small bundle, their families caught them. Chumki, her mother cried, pulling her back. What are you doing? You can't leave. Jui's father, a man who had seen too much of world's cruelty, gently took his daughter's hand. Jui, my brave girl, you must stay. This is not the time for childish games. And just like that, the two girls were separated, not just by the stream that had once connected their villages, but by a border that would soon tear their world apart. Years passed, and the pain of the separation became a distant yet ever-present ache in their hearts. Chumki, now a young woman of 17, had learned to live with the void left by Jui's absence. Life in Salpur continued. Though the village has changed, the partition had scarred the land and its people. Families were torn apart, neighbors became strangers, and the once thriving connection between Salpur and Devpur was reduced to mere memories. As the years went by, Chumki's life followed the path went out for her. She grew into a beautiful young woman, her eyes still carrying the spark of her childhood, though the laughter was less frequent now. Her parents arranged their marriage, as was customary, and she accepted it with the quiet resignation of someone who had long stopped believing in the fantasies of childhood. The night before her wedding, Chumki sat in her room, surrounded by the familiar scents of turmeric and henna, the symbols of an Indian bride. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, her mind drifting back to those carefree days under the banyan tree. She hadn't thought of Jui in a long time, but now on the eve of this new chapter in her life, the memories came flooding back. Suddenly there was a soft knock on her door. A maid entered, her head bowed, carrying a small tray. Bodhi, she whispered, using the respectful term for a bride. I brought this for you. Chumki looked at the maid, her face partially hidden by the drape of her sari. Something about her seemed familiar, but Chumki couldn't place it. The maid held out the tray, and on it were beautiful, colorful bangles, the same kind that she and Jui had once played with. Chumki's heart skipped a beat as she reached out to touch them. Where did you get this? She asked, her voice trembling. The maid smiled softly, her eyes shining with a sadness that spoke of years of longing. Afraid send them for you, Bodhi. She wanted you to have them on your special day. You will look pretty. As the maid turned to leave, Chumki's mind raced. There was something in those eyes, something she recognized. She called out, "Wait!" But the maid had already slipped out of the room, disappearing into the shadows of the night. Chumki sat there holding out the bangles, her heart pounding in her chest. The vibrant colors of the glass bangles shimmered under the dim light, bringing back memories she had long buried. Could it be? Could Jui have found her way back? The next morning, as the wedding preparations were in full swing, Chumki's mind was elsewhere. She could barely focus on the rituals, her thoughts consumed by the memory of the maid and the bangles. After the ceremony, as she sat beside her new husband, her eyes fell on the newspaper she was reading. The headline caught her eye. Woman freedom fighter sudden death in the railway accident in Ghat. Chumki's blood ran cold. She snatched the newspaper from her husband's hands, her eyes scanning the article. The details were sparse, but the description was unmistakable. A young woman named Jui Das, known for her involvement in the independence movement in West Bengal and Odisha, died due to a sudden railway accident because of a mechanical failure. The bangles slipped from Chumki's trembling hands and shattered on the floor. She felt the weight of the truth crash down on her. Her Jui, had come back. She had risked everything to see her one last time, and Chumki hadn't recognized her. The room around her blurred as tears filled her eyes. She could hear the sounds of celebration outside, the joyous music of wedding, but inside all she felt was a deep aching sorrow. Jui, she whispered, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry. Chumki fell on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably, her heart shattering along with the bangles. Her husband, confused and concerned, tried to comfort her, but she pushed him away. How could she explain? How could she tell him about the bond that had been severed, not just by the partition, but by time, fear, and cruel hand of fate? As the sun set on their wedding day, Chumki knew that a part of her would always remain under that banyan tree with Jui, her best friend, her sister in spirit. The partition had taken many things from her, but nothing as precious as the bond she shared with Jui. From that day on, Chumki carried the memory of Jui with her, a silent tribute to the friendship that had once been her entire world. She never spoke it to anyone, not even to her husband, but every time she saw a child playing with the colorful bangles, she would smile through her tears, remembering the days when two little girls believed that nothing could tear them apart. And in the quiet moments when she was alone, Chumki would hold on to those fragments of shattered bangles, feeling the presence of her dearest friend, the girl who had risked everything, even her life, for a friendship that transcended borders, politics, and time itself. Thank you.